Okay, and I think we're rolling. Um, Thank you, everybody, for coming back to my channel and listening to me ramble. I want to thank everybody for the support from the last video. Very much appreciated. Lovely comments. Yeah, I want to just say thank you very much. Thank you very much for supporting me. Yeah, so I wanted to do this video for a while, and this is kind of maybe one of the first. Well, first of all, I should let out what we're doing. We're not going to be covering a call or covering any documents this time. I just kind of want to talk and just kind of get some stuff out there. So I wanted to dive into why people, or why I find Lorne so interesting. why why he's like an endless form of entertainment, it seems. So in order to do that, let's go back a little bit, and I want to talk to you about how I got introduced to TCAP in general. It did actually air, I don't remember which channel, but it did air in the UK at some point. I think it was shortly after it aired in the US, maybe like a year after. My mom might be less due to reruns. I'm not sure when I picked it up, but I remember it was about the time it was airing in the UK, in the US, and about the time these things happened. So I think it was going pretty much concurrently, but I don't remember where I saw it. But I just found it one day, and I just couldn't stop watching the kind of I guess it was kind of like Schadenfreude, seeing people seeing people get into like the worst situation you could possibly ever be caught in. Trying to sleep with like someone underage and getting caught and put on camera and on TV, and then in the latest things arrested as soon as they get out of the door and knowing their lives are finished. It's just, yeah, something about that I just couldn't I couldn't take my eyes off it. And actually, I do remember, I know many people have recounted their stories of Lorne in particular and how he never stood out to them. Some people say he never stood out to them, he was just one of the other guys. People remember guys like John Connelly who turned up twice, or was it Michael Siebert, the Oops guy who turned up twice, or, you know, the kind of characters, what's his name? The way guy. Oh my goodness, I'm blanking on his name. I can see his face and his straight teeth, but I cannot think of his name. Oh god, you know the guy I'm talking about. Yeah, yeah, the way, and yeah. So there's a lot of guys on there that are kind of memorable for their own kind of meme status. The was it David Schumacher? The 14-year-olds, man. I don't know who 14-year-old girls, but that kind of guy. There's kind of memeability to all of them. But Lorne, well, on top of those, of course, those ones stood out to me. Of course, they stood out. But on top of that, Lorne kind of stood out to me. It was I was thinking of playing the footage, but I know NBC is a bit trigger happy with the takedowns and the strikes and everything, so I probably won't do it here. But I'm sure you can find the footage and look through it yourself. But it was when he, as Tiffany Lockhart says, when he skipped his giddy ass up to the house. I was like, huh. And it wasn't the chat log, the reading of the chat log on the original episode where it's just kind of that kind of snippet. That bit didn't really stand out to me. I thought, okay, he's just grooming, and this he just said this, and I didn't know about the entire chat log before. Well, I knew about it because it said this chat log, how big it was, but I never went in and actually read it or anything like that. Because at that point I had like kind of a cursory interest in the show. I wasn't really as into it as I am now. Which is strange. This show that's nearly 15 years old is still interesting to people later on, and people find like infinite amounts of entertainment from it, even though it stopped airing years and years ago. The bit that stood out to me with Lorne was his like when he came in and said, "Oh my god!" Like he'd won the lottery, like he'd just got exactly what he wanted for Christmas. That kind of, oh my god, that there was something about that just made my skin crawl. That he would, yeah, he considering what he was doing and what he was caught doing, that was his reaction to it. Some guys are a bit cagey and they come in, and again, not to say any of what they do is right, but some guys you can tell they've kind of got some stamp at the door. They're not too sure. They kind of come in and they're not, they're a bit off. But he was so confident. He strolled in, and oh my god, he sees his precious little princess standing there in front of him. It's probably the first female that's arranged to meet him, and has actually met him in the flesh. It turns out to be a sting, which is Poetic justice is awesome. Yeah, and it was the oh my god bit that was just like it was really it. It made my skin crawl. I couldn't tell you why. I still don't know why that bit, but it was a kind of his giddiness, his excitement at him finally getting what he thought. Well, he thought he got what he wanted, and then Chris Hansen walks out and his life ends. So, yeah. So as I said, I never read his chat log before, and I know there's so much in that chat log, and I've read portions of it, and I've listened to other people read it, mostly The Great Gatsby when she reads it for Lormus, and I know she needs a break after that because of how repetitive and kind of disgusting it is. Yeah, I don't know where to talk about this now. So I think maybe I'll talk about this in another video, but I think that based on the chat log, just a quick aside, I think that Lorne is actually one of the worst predators on that show. And outside of the guys that actually did stuff before, like the Kevin Westerbecks and the Joe Wanderlers, I think they were convicted of doing the similar stuff before. Outside of those, of course, they're like, and again, I don't want to get into this now, but let me explain very quickly, and I'll do another video on this. I don't want to say I rank the predators because they're all equally. It's almost like they're all very like low on the totem pole, but some people are lower than others. You know, there's like a ceiling to being a predator, which is like way down near between the third and fourth circle of hell. That's where you start, and you only go down from there. So so in terms of like who should be where, it's like, I think they're all They all should have known better. There's no excuse to do what they did. Absolutely disgusting. They deserve every punishment and every all the retribution that comes to them. But I think again, not to rank them in terms of like who's better. I don't want to say in terms of better, but who's the worst of the worst. I think Lorne is one of the worst. I want to go into why in another video. Anyway, going back to the actual point of this video, why is Lorne so interesting? So from TCAP, I found I kind of came onto YouTube to find some of the clips. I was like, oh, what was that show? I don't remember the show, and it was like, oh, what's that show called? And you go to YouTube, and you're like, oh god, what's that? You kind of go down that rabbit hole of like trying to find what it was. Oh, that was it, and I found it. And then you see the clips online and all that kind of stuff. So that's where I started getting into it a bit more. And I found Joey's TCAP channel, which was probably one of the first channels I found. And then after that, I found, I think, Atlantic City, because the videos I'd seen from Joey at the time, they were just kind of uploads of the footage. And I'd never seen any commentary over it, at least from the videos I saw. And then I found Atlantic City, which did the commentaries over them, which I found fascinating. He did like 15 minutes to half an hour commentaries, sometimes longer, over the kind of Predators videos. And yeah, so that's kind of how I felt. But I never really went any deeper. And I kind of wish I did at that time, but I never really went any deeper. I just saw his videos and then kind of bounced off. Oh, he's got a new video, and I'll watch it and then leave. Little did I know the amount of of what I was missing in that meantime. I know people quote like Bay Sharman as being like one of the originators of pornography. To be honest, I never really got to enjoy his content. I was just unaware until this last year, 2020, when I kind of got into the TCAP community, kind of found more what it was about and kind of went deeper, and I went, oh my, look at all this stuff I've been missing this whole time. I love this show, and I always it's one of those shows that always sticks with me, and it's just very interesting that I never found anything else. But yeah, so from Atlantic City I kind of went away for a while, and then I came back, and in the meantime I'd been finding clips here and there, and then I came back during the pandemic time, and this must have been February, March time. I found I think I was looking up Atlantic City, and I was seeing if he had any new stuff, and he hadn't for a while. So I tried to find some other commentary, and I came across, I think, Walls and Fast Eddie at the time. And I thought, oh, this is great. Other people were doing kind of these kind of videos that I enjoyed from Atlantic City. I was like, oh, this is great. And then I think it was Walls who mentioned something about cod fishing, and I didn't know what he was talking about. I was like, what is that? And I tried to search on YouTube, and I couldn't find anything. And then I was watching another one of his videos, and then there was a clobber time stream, like a replay of a stream in the recommended. So I went into that, and then that's where I got into it. I was just like, I watched Clobber's stream. I was like, what is this? What? And I was, even though I remembered Lorne, I didn't remember his name. So people were saying about Lorne Armstrong and blah blah blah. I was like, Lorne Armstrong, who's that? And then I found who he was. I was like, oh, that guy. Yes, I remember that guy. But he never really, like, it was very surface level. I was like, oh yeah, I remember that guy. And then I realized there was all this stuff that had been going on, and then I found the interviews with Ramona on the. There was like a podcast. Forgive me, I forget the name of the podcast, but there was a podcast with Atlantic City, and I think Joe was on that as well. And they interviewed some of the Predators. I think David Schumacher was on that, and they found Dark Hero as well, I think. And then I just went down the rabbit hole. Just went way down the rabbit hole, and I found the calls. I found other channels that had just kind of re-uploaded the calls. I found other calls. I went through Clobbering Time's like complete backlog, and that I think that's around the time that Lorne Identity started streaming. So I watched all his streams, and I was just in this rabbit hole of watching and listening to this guy kind of scream and rage and cry and like be the worst person. And I couldn't figure. It took me a long while to think, why do I find this interesting? I'd had my fair touch of like lolcows in the past. There was one guy I followed. God, his name was like hiding in my room. He was a guy that was like vlogging in Japan, and he was one of those kind of lolcows. And there was another guy called Craig Grant who was like a Bitcoin guy. He was another one of those lolcows. I never really got into. I'd heard of Chris Chan, but I never really got into Chris Chan. I think I heard about him from I was listening to the Drunken Peasants, and I think they talked about him on and off. But it was very kind of like, again, surface level. But Lorne's the first one I've really gone this deep into, and just tried to figure out why he is so interesting. And I think it comes up back to something quite simple, is that he is like the worst. And I know that sounds funny to say, and obvious, but he is the worst traits of people all balled up into one person that you cannot believe is real. That is what is so interesting about him. And if it had been anyone else without kind of a public history like he has, in terms of you can go onto the sex offender page and find him, you can see his sting where he got caught, his arrest, public court records, all this kind of stuff. If he wasn't so well done, I would think it was fake. And originally I thought it was all theatre. I was like, come on, man, this can't be real. This is all like playing out for because some of the other locales you find, if they've got a public presence, you don't really know if they're playing it up for the cameras and it's all kind of a show because they know it sells. I get some of that feeling for some of the other locales I've seen, but Lorne he seems to be so genuine in the fact that we've got all this evidence, even without the phone calls, all this kind of paperwork and this paper trail of and even the sting of what kind of person he was. The logography is so illuminating. The actual chat log is so illuminating to who he is and what he's about. It's better than any memoir he could ever write, because we know it would be lies. That was him in a raw moment that you could figure out what kind of guy he was, and we've seen it again. If you go back and watch my video about Nikki, we've seen that kind of attitude and that kind of his behavior displayed time and again. So that's who Lorne is, and he's kind of like I think I've heard. Andrew Birkett. I really enjoy his stream, so I do mention him a lot as a reference, because I think he and I have a very similar way of thinking about Lorne, and he's given me some good food for thought as well. Even though I don't always agree, I think he's got a kind of a deeper kind of look at Lorne. So as he said, I think it was him. He said something like Lorne is like the Bible. He is. There are many different ways to interpret him. There are many different levels of enjoyment people get out of him, all the way from the most surface level, haha, look at it's funny when he says "cod" or starts crying, I'm gonna hold my hand. I love those moments too when he starts crying or gets irrationally angry. Although sometimes I can't help but get a bit angry. I know it's all theatre and it's all kind of fake, but when he's like screaming at Ramona even though we know it's an act, he thinks it's real, and the way he acts towards her kind of gets me a little angry sometimes, and I have to kind of turn it off because I feel my blood boiling. He is. There are different levels, so people enjoy him on the level of just something to laugh at, which is absolutely fine. They enjoy him as like a case study and what not to do, which is how I kind of enjoy him. I kind of listen to calls again. I go, man, I cannot, like, you see those traits and you never want to display those traits ever in your life, you know. And there are some even a more serious and deeper level than even I say that I enjoy Lorne on, or not necessarily enjoy. Well, the next one down is the might not necessarily enjoy, but it's catharsis for actual victims of the crimes that he's tried to commit over and over again. Those, if one person, and this is where I kind of maybe I rationalize it to myself, but I think this is how I see it. If one person who was a victim or knows a victim of what Lorne tried to do gets any type of catharsis or some kind of therapy or some kind of I don't know, kind of I don't know what the best word for it, not quite justice, but some kind of catharsis, some kind of release over seeing Lorne and what his life has become, then it's worth it to me. It might sound like rationalizing, it probably is, but if one person gets something out of this that can help them heal something that happened to them in the past, yeah, I mean, make fun of him all day. That's fine. And not to mention how he invites it. Anyway, I don't want to get too deep, but yeah, that's just how I feel about that. Yeah, so kind of going back to why Lorne's so interesting is he is several layers deep on being like a bad person. He exhibits kind of all the worst. We talk about like the deadly sins, and I'm going to link in the description. I've got a link in the description to a discussion that Shin's Koala and Andrew Birkett had about how Lorne kind of displays the 7 deadly sins. You know, like the most obvious ones being like lust and greed and wrath and envy. Like that, he is the almost like he's not even archetypal because he's a real person. You know, he's not an archetype. He's like the avatar of the worst parts of humanity. It really is. It's really kind of unbelievable to think that a person like that actually exists and is walking around among us right now. Again, which is why I think he's so dangerous, which is why I think he should be institutionalized for the rest of his life. And add stupidity on that, add gullibility on that, add desperation on top of that, add obviously pride on top of that, which is obviously another sin, like pride, and delusion and just like no self-control, no impulse control. It's a dangerous game. It's like a bomb waiting to go off. And again, I heard someone say, I forget who said it, but I heard him say that. I thought exactly. I think it might have been Reborn. If maybe I heard on his stream. If Lorne was any smarter, he would be extremely dangerous. I think he's very dangerous now. That's just my opinion. But I think if he was any smarter, he would be an extremely dangerous person. And he may have got away with some of the things that he was trying to do. But again, I don't want to get too dark. Why Lorne's interesting is what we're talking about today. Yeah, so I think so I want to go into like why I personally find him so interesting, or why I find him so fascinating. It's the same. It's that same part of your mind that kind of gets a fascination, not necessarily like joy, but kind of a fascination out of watching something like a car crash. You know it's bad, but you can't stop looking at it. You know what I mean? That not necessarily a car where people die and everything. Obviously that's sad, but it's that kind of like that kind of morbid fascination with something that is so. It's such a terrible kind of situation to be in, purely of his own making. But it's such a. If it were anyone else, I would feel some kind of sympathy if they were in Lorne's position. Like remove the kind of child predator stuff. If I just came across this in like in kind of a vacuum, and there were these people kind of I would go, you know what, I'm not too interested. But when it's Lorne, I can't say that I feel bad. I can't, and I don't know if it makes me a bad person. It might be, but it's I just cannot bring myself to feel bad for him. He invites everything that happens in his life. He invites everything. He invites absolutely everything. So that's one aspect of it is kind of that morbid fascination with something that's just going wrong, or something that is about to go wrong, or something that you want to see unwind in real time, or kind of it's been chronicled like unwinding. That's kind of one thing. The second thing is like kind of, as I was saying before, he is like an avatar of the worst traits, and something I'm not proud of is something that is why I personally find Lorne so interesting, is that he displays traits that I'm not happy to say, have displayed in the past, but turned up to 11. Like his like, have I been jealous in yes, I have. I'm not. And have I kind of lost my temper sometimes? I have, and I feel terrible about it. But you kind of live and learn, right? You display these kind of traits and these kind of behaviors, and you kind of look at yourself and go, that's not good, and I should probably work on myself to not do that in the future. I feel bad to people who are the victims of what I did, like how I was to them. I've not been the nicest person sometimes, but when you see it personified in Lorne and the fact that he never learns, it's the same thing over and over and over and over again. We heard the same thing with the decoy. As far as we know, in terms of things that have been documented, the same wrathful and jealous tirades he gets with the decoy with Casey, quote unquote Koala. That you've seen it with his relationship with Ramona. You've seen it with his relationship with Casey, which was Winnie, which was the same relationship with Debbie, when it's the same relationship that's going on right now, or has been going on very recently. Last year, we saw the same thing, and he never, ever learns. Even when he's been told that things aren't what you think they are, and these people are messing with you, and they come out and tell them that to his face, he still gets in contact. Look what happened with Ramona. She told him to his face, I've been lying to you this whole time, and I'm not who you think I am. I've been recording you and putting you up on the internet. You're so stupid. He hung up the phone, and who's on the phone a few months later? Lorne, looking for sympathy. Oh, you fell in love with me, didn't you? Well, who with your boyfriend? And that's a whole different thing. If you do, yeah, I'm sure you guys know, but that is why he'll be kind of recursively interesting to me. he'll be interesting all the time. And the fact he doesn't, another thing that kind of doesn't make me feel bad is that he doesn't, and I still believe he will not, which is why he's still in the classes that he's in, as far as we know. He will not take responsibility for what he did. He will not say what he did was bad. He thought what he did was fine. He doesn't even have the intelligence, and again, I'm not advocating anyone do this if they're in a similar situation. He doesn't have the I think I've said this before. He doesn't have the intelligence to just make it up and just say what he thinks they want to hear. He's not even that smart. He can't even do that to get out of this rape class he's in. He can't even do that. So he'll probably be in there for the rest of his life, which is fine by me. Yeah. So he's a case study in how not to behave. He's a case study in toxic relationships. He's a case study in stupidity. He's a case study in jealousy. He's a case study in infantile, puerile, like infantile behavior. He is a case study in all those things. And if I had the money and the connections to do this, what I would do, I would love to have this happen, is have Lorne. I'd have like a week where Lorne would sit down with Jordan Peterson, and I just love Jordan Peterson to just pick him apart, just to kind of get to the root of who he is, of why he is the way he is. That would, or any kind of like leading psychologist, to kind of just sit down and I'd record the whole thing, and I would just want to see how a professional psychologist breaks him apart, because I have no training in this, and I see things in him that I'm sure a psychologist would set off like red alarm bells going off, like, oh my god, this person's actually out there. He's screaming at her for what? Oh my goodness. Yeah. So that is, yeah. So that's kind of the core of why I find him so interesting, is he is the worst of us. He is, I'm sure many people have displayed, as I have myself, displayed similar behaviors as Lorne displays, way like turn up to the maximum and all at once, which makes him so toxic. And I must say that I've actually, as kind of sad as it sounds, Lorne has kind of given me a kind of an inverse role model of when I see myself doing things or saying things, even if it's like the very, very like beginning of that kind of could lead me to a position where like kind of not in terms of the child predator thing. No. I'm talking about his other behavior, his like anger, his resentfulness, his abdication of responsibility, that kind of thing. And I think it's like I don't want to be anything like this guy. And if something goes wrong, if I'm honest with myself, which is something he can never be, and I think that's a survival mechanism. If I'm honest with myself, I have to be as honest with myself as possible and honest with everyone else as possible. Otherwise, I could end up living a miserable, lonely existence like him. Again, minus the child predator stuff. You know, even without the child predator stuff, this is what's interesting as well. I find myself listening to calls, and it doesn't even register with me. Like, I'm listening to calls and I'm like, this guy is the worst, and this guy's the worst. And then I remember, oh yeah, the reason we know about him is because of To Catch a Predator. Oh right, he tried to have sex and kidnap a 13-year-old. Oh yeah, that's also why he's so bad. But it's not even the worst thing that's happening right now. It's not even like, oh, you know, that's all he is. It's like he's all that plus everything else. Like everything minus the child predator stuff would be enough. But add the child predator stuff on top of that, it's a dangerous concoction, a dangerous brew. And yeah, I think that's kind of it. It's just he is a personification of the worst of us, the worst of humanity, all rolled into one. And yeah, I think that's it. And I try every day to be as little like him as possible. As sad as that is, hey, one of my negative role models is a sex offender. You know, sue me. That's just kind of, you know. Well, you know, I am one of those weirdos, so I guess I can part of the course. Yeah. So thank you guys for listening. This has been a slightly different one for the ones I've been doing recently. I want to do more documents again and more of these type of videos. I don't know what my schedule's like. It's kind of just as and when. So if you want to subscribe and kind of whenever I come up with a new video, you'll find out. That's fine. If not, just, you know, I'm sure you can check back and I see. But yeah, I also want to know why I want to have some engagement here. So why do you think he is so fascinating? If you leave something in the comments, I really want to kind of delve into. I want to see what other people get out of him. I really want to see why other people find him interesting, because I'm sure my answer is not the only reason. I'm sure there are other people that have many different reasons as to why, and I'd love to kind of listen to that and see what people say. So yeah, that'll be great, guys. If you leave those in the comments section below, and I'll